Special Investigating Unit briefed the Standing Committee on Public Accounts on the status of the investigations into the Department of Employment and Labour, the Unemployment Insurance Fund and TERS. The unit has revealed that about 600 government employees had fraudulently benefited from the TERS compensation. The payment benefit was meant for eligible people who were unemployed during the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the SIU was then brought in through two proclamations to investigate allegations of fraud and maladministration related to TERS. Some of the employees who benefited unduly from the UIF include the South African National Defence Force staff, prison inmates, deceased persons and foreign nationals, just among others. SIU Spokesperson Mr. Kaizer Kganyago joins us now on the line to further unpack this. Mr. Kganyago, a very good afternoon. Great to have you with us. So we hear that about 57 billion rand is said to have been paid by the fund in fraudulent payment to government employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. More concerning, about 6,000 government employees were actually identified within these 24 departments. So how did the use of these employees' IDs actually happen, sir?
Good afternoon to your listeners and viewers. What basically happened here is we were looking into this investigation at the UIF, and we checked on all the transactions that were making about this 57.4 billion rand. And of all of those, we are saying that the ones that we think are fraudulent will be at a cost of about 7 billion. That is the amount. But what has happened here is, of that number, we found 6,000 employees of government who have received the TERS. But when we went further into it, we found that some of them did not even know that their IDs were used. For an example, we found that in some instances, you were working for a company before you came into government, and they just have your details. When that application was done by that company, then they ended up putting your ID number there, and then without your knowledge, when the money came, they just kept the money.
Mm-hmm. Is this all the government departments, though, Kaizer, or some of them were actually complicit in these fraudulent activities?
Some of them were complicit. For an example, especially when it comes to nurses in the main and teachers, you'll find that in those instances, people were moonlighting. Because they are moonlighting and without the knowledge of the department, they then get applied for by the companies that they were moonlighting for. Just to give a simple example, there was somebody who was working as a doctor at the Department of Health hospitals, employed by the Department of Health, but this same person was moonlighting at a private prison in Tumule in Limpopo. And then when those people did their application, which was not even supposed to have been done, they included his ID number because they are paying that person who's moonlighting with them. There were such things are deliberate, and we had to recover all of those monies. And in some instances, they have already signed the acknowledgement of that.
I mean, so what happens next then? As we understand, the investigation is expected to be completed by the end of December this year. Will the SIU be putting forward any recommendations in this regard?
We have already done systemic recommendations to the UIF, basically about their systems and how they should be done. And then from those who have defrauded government, those that we find criminality on, obviously will take to the NPA. But the rest of this money that needs to be recovered, about 7.2 billion rand, we have to get it back from these people because they were not supposed to have received this money. But of importance is the UIF has to make sure that they are ready for the next pandemic, because it is the first time that they were doing this. Their systems were not in place. They were not doing thorough checks, and that is what ended with the situation like this. In terms of those people who have stolen other people's IDs, foreigners and so on, who used IDs from the SANDF people and also the ones from the people who were in prison, that is criminality. It goes against the act, the human, the act that we have. Therefore, they have to be dealt with criminally.
All right, so there's two numbers that we're working with here, Kaizer. There's a 229.439 figure versus the 7.2 billion rand. So which amount has actually been recovered so far? Very quickly.
Yeah, the money that we have, the 249 that we are talking, the money that has been recovered, we are targeting 7.2 billion, and then out of the 57.4 billion that was paid by government.
Right now, we understand that this week the SIU will be hosting the G20 Anti-Corruption Working Group consultative meeting. Talk to us about that and what is expected to be at the top of your agenda there.
You would know that we as government of South Africa, we are hosting G20. We have been given the task through the Department of Public Service and Administration to chair the issues around anti-corruption. We are chairing the anti-corruption working group thing on Monday to Wednesday in Cape Town. Therefore, what we will be doing there is to look into how we can help each other as G20 government to fight corruption, but also look at issues of illicit trade, look at also issues of the whistleblower protection, among other things. Those are some of the things that we'll be looking into.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Mr. Kaizer Kganyago is the SIU spokesperson there on the UIF TERS probe, as well as the G20 that they're going to be chairing.